All right, let's get right into it. If you're planning on moving to Australia, you know that getting your visa sorted is a huge deal. But there's one condition that can honestly trip up just about anyone, no matter how organized you are: health insurance. And trust me, this isn't just another piece of paperwork. It's a super critical part of your plan that you've absolutely got to get right.
So let me just ask you this straight up. You're moving to Australia? What's your plan if you get sick? What happens if you have an accident? It's a tough question, I know, but it's the exact question the Australian government expects you to have a solid answer for before you even set foot in the country.
So in this breakdown, we're going to build that answer for you step by step. We'll kick things off with the healthcare reality on the ground in Australia. Then we'll decode what the government actually means by adequate insurance. After that, we'll dive into the really important fine print you find in every policy, and we'll wrap it all up with a simple, straightforward action plan.
Okay, Section 1. Let's talk about the reality of the Australian healthcare system, specifically for visa holders. Once you get your head around this, you'll see exactly why this whole insurance requirement is even a thing. It's not just a random rule.
Look at this slide. It draws a really clear line in the sand. On one side, you've got your Australian citizens, permanent residents. They get access to Medicare, which is the public health system. But over on the other side, that's most temporary visa holders. And it doesn't matter if you're here to study, work, or just visit, you generally have zero access to Medicare, which means you're on the hook for 100% of your medical bills. All of them.
And listen, this isn't a friendly suggestion. This is a direct quote, a warning from the Department of Home Affairs. They could not be clearer. The financial responsibility is all on you. They even point out that if you have outstanding medical debts, it could seriously mess up any future visa applications you make.
So what does that actually look like? Well, without insurance, you're what's called a private patient for any treatment you get. It doesn't matter if you're in a public or private hospital. The bottom line is, you are paying for everything right then and there, straight out of your own pocket.
Which brings us to Section 2. Now that we know the why, let's dig into the what. What does the government actually mean when they say adequate insurance? Now, it's good to know there are different kinds, like Overseas Student Health Cover, or OSHC, which is specifically for students, and OVHC for other visitors. But here's the key. They all have to meet the same basic minimum requirements.
Thankfully, they don't leave you guessing. Think of this as your minimum checklist. Your policy absolutely has to cover the big stuff. We're talking about public hospital costs. That's your room, the operating theater fees, the works. It's got to cover surgically implanted prostheses, those essential items. It also needs to cover in-hospital pharmacy bills and the doctors who treat you while you're admitted. And finally, and this one's a big one, it must cover emergency ambulance services. Those costs can be astronomical on their own.
And if you're wondering about the kind of scale we're talking about here, just look at this number. The absolute minimum level of health insurance your policy must have is a benefit limit of at least 1 million Australian dollars. That's per person, per year. That one number tells you everything you need to know about the kind of costs the government is trying to protect both you and the public system from.
Okay, so you know the basics of what you need, but, and this is a big but, not all policies are the same. So Section 3 is all about that tricky fine print. These are the details you absolutely have to look at before you sign on the dotted line.
First on the list, waiting periods. This is so important. You can't just buy a policy today and then make a claim for some major treatment tomorrow. The government sets maximum waiting periods that insurers can make you serve. For things like psychiatric care, it's 2 months. But for pre-existing conditions and for anything related to pregnancy and birth, you're looking at a full 12-month wait.
Now, just as important as what's covered is what isn't. These policies are for unexpected medical problems, not for everything under the sun. So you'll see they generally won't cover things like elective cosmetic surgery or assisted reproductive treatments like IVF. Major procedures like organ transplants are usually out too. And of course, this is insurance for Australia, so any treatment you get overseas isn't covered. You've got to read that exclusion list so there are no nasty surprises later.
Here's a word you'll want to remember: portability. This is basically your right to switch from one Australian health insurer to another without having to start all your waiting periods over again from scratch. It's a great consumer protection that gives you the freedom to shop around for a better deal down the track without being penalized for it.
And just a few other quick terms you'll definitely come across. First, excess or copayment. That's just the amount of money you have to pay yourself before the insurance company starts paying. Then there's arrears. This is a good one for you. It means you get a 60-day grace period if you're late with a payment before they can cancel your policy. And finally, bio clauses.
You just need to know these are totally forbidden. An insurer can't just throw a lump sum of cash at you to get out of covering your ongoing care.
So, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's pull it all together in our final section, your insurance action plan. This is where we take all this info and turn it into a smart, confident decision for you.
It really comes down to this simple 3-step plan. Step 1. Always double-check the specific insurance rules for your exact visa subclass. For example, if you're on a student visa, the subclass 500, you'll need that specific OSHC we talked about. Step 2. Don't just go with the first provider you see. Use the official government comparison website, privatehealth.gov.au, to compare your options. And Step 3, the most important one. Before you pay a single dollar, read the policy documents. Pay super close attention to those waiting periods and exclusions.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. As you're looking at different policies, you need to ask yourself this one question. Is this thing I'm about to buy a real safety net that will actually protect me and my family if something goes wrong? Or is it just an empty box I'm ticking to get my visa approved? Making sure you get that answer right, well, that's the most important part of this whole process.